You're gonna get one, the pineapple guava, the Acca sellowiana, I can't really pronounce that. The difference between this one and that one is it's gonna have rust-colored stems, and if you turn over on the back side of the leaf, you've got little rust-colored spots, but it's gonna be that silvery white green color to the leaves, which are simple, alternate, entire. Some of the older leaves kind of have a crenate margin. It doesn't have true thorns. If you look at the node, there's like a little... Also the flowers, I don't know if y'all can smell it or not, but it's got fragrant little tiny white flowers on it. It's flowers in the fall. Do y'all see the flowers on it? Camellia. Are any of y'all familiar with camellia? Yeah. No. Theaceae and japonica. They both look a lot alike. Theaceae is going to have smaller leaves, but that's not really for the purposes of this class. Okay, so if you look down here at the bottom, they've got really huge, almost bulging, bursting flower buds. The flower buds on camellia are always going to be bigger than the vegetative buds, and they're also going to be a fairly large bud to begin with. But it's in the Theaceae family, which is the tea family. So, you know, chamomile tea, camellia. Alternate serrated margin. It's going to be a glossy, thick, leathery leaf. Very upright growing. It's going to have, here's a flower. This is not, they can be white to red to pink. Sometimes they can be double.
How big the flower? Is it this big?
Yeah. It's about that big.
Okay.
They're really pretty. Viburnum species. There are lots and lots of viburnums, but we're just going to cover the species. So this is a viburnum. I don't know which one this one is, to be completely honest with you. It's going to have its opposite leaves, which is characteristic of Caprifoliaceae. Crimson bottlebrush. A good ID characteristic about bottlebrush is, if you look, it goes from vegetative to floral back to vegetative. So y'all see right there?
The buds?
Yeah, those are remnants of flowers. So you see right here, it still has the stamens on them.
Looks like you could take one off and you see it at the bottom.
Yes, and if y'all, do y'all know what the bottlebrush flower looks like? Are y'all familiar with it?
What?
The bottlebrush flower?
Looks like a puff.
It's usually, this species is red flowers that look like one of those brushes that's like cylindrical and you stick it in a bottle and brush it out, you know? So the new growth is really soft. It goes from like really pubescent and soft to like really thick and leathery and glabrous. The stems even have fine white hair on the stems. The flower it's got really like fine red petals, and it looks like a bottle brush, which is how it got its name.
Cute.
It also has a distinct, there's some petals, dead petals.
You're of a Pirates of the Caribbean.
Is it distinctive like
Looks rowdy here.
Holly is going to be your largest of the hollies, but it's typically going to be a small tree. But it can be 40 to 50 feet tall. Most of the hollies are going to be a dark glossy green, but the Ilex opaca is going to be kind of more of a yellow-green in color. And it's going to have spines all along the margin. It is dioecious, so the females will have red berries. Basically, the way you're going to tell this one apart from the other hollies is it's going to be yellow-green, and it's going to have spines all along the margin. The juvenile foliage typically has more spines, and then the adult foliage, which is not on this tree at the moment, will have just one spine. And it's alternate, just characteristic of the Ilex. The Ilex, it's the Aquifoliaceae, yeah. Hybrid between Chinese holly, Ilex cornuta, and Cassine holly, Ilex cassine. And the way you're going to tell this from the Chinese hollies we're going to look at is, if you look at the leaves, it's going to have 3 or 5 spines, all in the tree. Where the Chinese hollies will have either 5 or 1. But this has got a mixture of 3s and 5s. It's going to have dark green glossy leaves. The new growth, the stem is yellow. It is alternate. The fruit is larger on the Nellie R. Stevens holly than it is on the Chinese hollies. This fruit looks kind of sad though. Yeah. Typically it's like glossy and smooth, and it looks kind of wrinkled for some reason. So yeah, the way you're going to be able to tell this apart is if you look, if I give you a leaf section, you're going to have different numbers of spines on the leaf. So this one has 3, this one has 1, this one here has 4. So that's going to be one way you're going to be able to tell this apart from the Chinese hollies. This is a dwarf Bufordi. This is going to have 5 needles on the leaf. It looks really mean. Really good for a border hedge. Yes, Chinese holly, Ilex cornuta.
Both of these are cornuta, right? No?
Yes, they are both cornutas. This cultivar, I believe, is needlepoint. And this one is dwarf Bufordi. Yeah, dwarf Bufordi right here. Rotunda, I'm so sorry, you're right. And then needlepoint is this one.
But which one we need to remember?
Just be familiar that a Chinese holly can either have 1 spine at the tip or 5 spines down here. Fruit on it. Here's one right here.
Can you eat it?
That will ripen in the winter and are edible and are actually very tasty.
Really?
Yes. So the way you can tell this apart from the Elaeagnus, which they look very similar, is it's going to have white on the back and not those rust spots. Also, the stems are going to be kind of a white pubescence on it. And the Elaeagnus has rust-colored stems. They do have large white flowers with red and purple stamens when they bloom. Very showy flowers. It is an evergreen. The stems are exfoliating, so if you look at the stems, they have exfoliating bark. It's going to have opposite leaves, thick, leathery foliage. The foliage is also kind of squarish. I mean, if you look, it almost looks like it's, I don't know, that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
This is what
as in like just somewhat rhombic?
Yeah.
Mildly rhombic.
I don't know if I would look at that, but it's also got, if you look at the berries, they're starting to turn blue-black fruit. It's going to have white panicles in the spring that are very fragrant, which will be at the terminal, which is where the fruit is. It is evergreen. It's going to have prominent white lenticels. You can see it right there. Straight species looks like. Dark green leaves. It's also, if you look at the fruit is also variegated, which is kind of cool.
The leaves look like watercolor.
But it's going to have smaller leaves, opposite. In the spring, it's covered with white flowers that are very fragrant. Sometimes they can give people a headache. I think it smells good.
Like so intense it gives people a headache?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. It's also, the straight species is going to have small blue-black fruit that look like this, just black. But if you look, the fruit over here is variegated. Kind of looks like little baby watermelons. Pick one off and smell it.
Oh, so it's what you like put in like soups and stuff and stews? Get a good little seasoning action. I use bay leaves in my cooking.
Bay Laurel, it's bay leaves. So Bay Laurel is in the Lauraceae family. This actually looks pretty good. It does have brown tip, you know, drought stress, but it looks pretty good, according to Dr. Arnold and Andrew. But definitely the scent is going to be the big giveaway on this one because it is bay leaves, which is used in cooking. I know we put it in our jambalaya back home.
Jambalaya?
Yeah.
Jambalaya? It's jambalaya.
Okay, so it's going to have, on the older growth, just kind of thick, rubbery leaves. It's going to have a green stem on the new growth, typically. It's going to be very upright, growing, with the ruffled margin, entire to ruffled. Lighter, glaucous, opposite leaves that are linear. They're also going to be kind of rolled under. The back side of the leaf is white. And kind of, the leaves are kind of, when they come out, they kind of point upwards a little bit. The reason it's called Japanese blueberry tree is because when it flowers and fruits, they look like blueberries, but they're not. That's how it got its name. But it's going to have thick, dark green leaves with a crenate margin. It actually has a pretty big, thick trunk. If you can look back there, it's been
Whacked.
pruned down. The leaves also are kind of clustered at the terminal of the stem. It's going to have an oblanceolate leaf, meaning it's thicker towards the tip of the leaf. The older leaves will start to turn color and drop off, so here's an example of it right here. It'll just change color and drop off.
Turning reddish.
Which is a good ID characteristic. There's another one over there.
Where? It's an example.
This is Yaupon holly, Ilex vomitoria. If you look right next to it, that little shrub right there is also a yaupon. It's a dwarf yaupon. Have smaller leaves than the other hollies. It's going to have yellow to red berries, which are smaller. It's going to have a crenate margin. The stems are really stiff. You kind of touch it and it pops off. They're real stiff, which is a good ID characteristic. But it's pretty distinct from the other hollies. I guess the only one you're going to get it maybe confused with is possum haw.
I just broke it.
Possum haw is going to be deciduous. Also, it's going to have that onion skin peeling bark, and this does not.